the hospital practices that became hospital employees are now under severe scrutiny to be productive within the office. And if they have to come and provide inpatient care, mess up their schedule, their productivity falls and they get in trouble for it. There's also a refusal to take call because EMTALA increases their exposure to making their bottom line look bad and make them look bad at the hospital. And the hospital has no conception of calculating the economic value of doing something that the government's mandated that you do. So the hospital has been hired to provide inpatient care, and these are excellent physicians. But they're excellent physicians who are under enormous pressure to practice for the collective rather than the individual. And to their credit, what they have done, because these are doctors, very smart people, is they have become very creative at kind of subverting the system and making it work. But what happens is the government constantly changes the rules of what they'll pay for and what they won't pay for. So it's always a moving goalpost. So in order to help the hospitals now hire case managers. Case managers are usually nurses that have had the good sense to get out of clinical care or social workers. And they have this big manual from the government about what they will and what they won't pay for and what the diagnostic criteria for being able to be admitted into the hospital are. And they help the hospitalists figure out what they can and cannot do. Now make no mistake, if something doesn't fit this template, they're not saying you can't admit the patient to the hospital. You can, and we do all the time. They're just saying, we're not going to pay for it. And when the hospital's under this much financial pressure, there's very huge pressure to predicate your admissions to the hospital based on what's allowed. So finally, the Patient Portability Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. This was signed into law on March 23, 2010. I watched it while waiting in a neurologist's office for 4 hours to be seen. The reason I was in the neurologist's office is I got a weird neuropathy. I thought it was from a pinched nerve in my neck, maybe from working out. But my intrinsic hand muscles atrophied to the point where I could no longer pinch or turn a key. One day I had a patient that went into respiratory arrest. I had to intubate them. I used a laryngoscope to expose their vocal cords, and the endotracheal tube, the plastic tube we put down your windpipe, I couldn't hold on to it as I was passing it through, and I was like, oh crap, I got to figure this out. So I was waiting to have a nerve conduction velocity done. As it turns out, I had something called cubital tunnel syndrome. We were mandated to have electronic medical records or face severe financial penalties in terms of what Medicare would pay you. So huge pressure from the hospital. We went to, instead of voice dictation that was transcribed, to this computer template that you had to mouse every little bit of the patient encounter. And where it was a desk with a glass tabletop, and I was raking my ulnar nerve over that over and over again. I never thought, after 20 years of education, I would have the sort of job where I would have a repetitive motion injury. But I was there being evaluated for it while I watched this signed into law. And the thing is, everyone's just really up in arms about this, thinking that this is going to do new and horrible things. And it's not. Here's what it does, is it just takes everything that's horrible about our current system and mandates that you buy into it, even if you object. And this is the scariest thing about the latest court case, is the first time in American history someone can tax you for something you did not do. You're not being taxed for taking an action. You're not being taxed for producing something or selling something or bartering any sort of transaction. You're being taxed for an inaction. Okay? So this includes all the negative elements of what brought us here. But the other thing it does, it shuts off any escape valve for cost shifting. Everyone's co-opted into this thing. So what's going to happen now is once these price controls are enacted, and they cannot be dissipated by cost shifting, you're going to have massive shortages. It's going to be really hard to get in to see anyone or get care. So if you get sick, expect to be deflected to the ER when you go to your doctor's office. The doctor's office is for routine care and simple stuff. You do anything that screws up the flow of the schedule, they're going to punch you to the doctor's office, to the ER. When you get to the ER, expect long waits because everything's being shunted there. and EMTALA remains in effect. Okay? Call your doctor's office. Go out in the hall, call your doctor's office on the cell phone. Universally will say, if you think this is an emergency, call 911, go directly to the emergency department. When you get to the emergency department, what's the thing that the triage nurse says to you? Didn't you call your doctor? No one wants you, because you are a liability to everyone involved in this system now. If you need admission, it's going to be a fight. We're going to have to find a damn good reason for you to get in there. We're going to have to ram the square peg into the round hole to make sure we get some sort of reimbursement for taking care of you. And you'll be kicked out as soon as possible, whether you're ready or not. It's all protocol driven. Anytime you receive a treatment, it will be per protocol. If you come in with chest pain, you're going to be discharged on a statin. And if you're not discharged on a statin, that's going to create the physician being flagged as an outlier and a troublemaker. Okay? The sicker you are, the more you're viewed as a liability. Be prepared to be discharged prematurely. Come in with pneumonia, you're not completely better, but maybe good enough, they'll send you home. And right now, we're experiencing multiple ambulance U-turns. And what I mean by that is almost every single shift I work, I will see at least one ambulance patient that was someone that was discharged from the hospital being driven home in the ambulance that has to do a U-turn and come back because they're decompensating. And guess what? If you're at a readmission within 48 hours, they ain't paying. So now the readmission is even more of a fight than the original admission, because no matter what you do, no one's getting paid. But lots of people are doing the U-turn because of the premature discharges. And understand, this is not because the doctors aren't good. These are extraordinarily smart and well-meaning people. They're just operating under the constraints of enormous pressures. So remember, he who holds the gold makes the rules. What becomes protocol is subject to lobbying groups. And what treatments are approved are influenced by big pharma. Big agri, you subsidize corn, you end up needing Lipitor, you end up needing glucovance. And what lands most people in the hospital is the dietary habits that are created by big agri and the USDA. And when you get admitted to the hospital, what they bring to feed you will be what the USDA says to feed you. So remember, getting sick, it's always meant a loss of control. But now it means a loss of control and a loss of your liberty. Your doctor no longer serves you, he serves the collective. His compliance is strongly coerced, if not forced. Currently it's coerced very strongly. Soon it will be forced. And remember, you're a financial loss center to everyone involved. It's cheaper if you die. As long as the protocol was followed, it's in your interest to be a quick healer. That's why you want to eat the paleo diet. That's why you want to do high-intensity exercise. That's why everything that we talk about here is so important. You do not want to get in the belly of this beast. So, you doubt me? Take the airport test. When you guys are flying back home, look around. The vast majority of people are already within the belly of the beast. And that's the thing that always cracks me up when you hear, fitness guys that get up here and say, I'm going to change the healthcare system. We're going to be more about prevention and health than we are about disease. Come to work with me one day. You have no idea how sick people are. Okay? I saw a 48-pound 2-year-old with type 2 diabetes. At Walmart, you can buy nipples that screw on to a Mountain Dew bottle. Okay? Look around you. Just walk out front, look at someone out in the smoking area that's, 100 pounds over fat, and realize if this person gets the flu, they're going to be real sick. Okay? The onslaught of sick people that need big pharma type interventions, because it's all predicated and focused on that sort of recovery from the brink. There is so much of that coming at you so fast, you don't have any time to think of alternative medicine and prevention or anything like that. Doctors are buried by this. So being fit and medication-free gives you an enormous competitive advantage, and it subverts dependency. Direct control over your life is removed. It leaves you in a much more resourceful mode of being able to deal with the multiple indirect controls that are being exerted over you right now. So how do you do it? Eat a paleo diet. And you don't have to eat paleo. What that means is avoid Neolithic agents of disease. Eat nutrient-dense whole foods. Single ingredient diet. Okay? You should eat something that has a single ingredient. Broccoli, meat, eggs. I was talking to Dave earlier, and we were talking about eggs and fat in the diet and how important it was, and particularly how important it was during pregnancy and gestation. I said to him, he said, look at an egg, look at a yolk. Everything you need to make a chicken is right there. That's nutrient density. Eat a paleo diet. Find a book, Primal Blueprint, Rob Wolf's book, Paleo Solution, The One Diet by Simon Shawcross, who spoke in London, Primal Body and Primal Mind by Nora Gagaudis, and The New Evolution Diet by Art Devaney. All are my favorites. Pick any one that appeals to you and follow it. If you respond better to visual and oral presentation, see my 21 Convention talk on YouTube, 2010. I'll lay it all out for you in technical detail so you'll understand both the why and the how. Exercise, do high intensity, low force exercise with plenty of recovery. What Skylar told you is gospel truth. Okay? You can read my book, Body by Science. First, do no harm. Find Bill DeSimone's work and read it, Moment Arm Exercise. You don't want to injure yourself either. It's not enough not to be sick. You tear your rotator cuff, guess what? You're in the belly of the beast. So you should avoid ballistic exercise or programs that use skill-based movements in a fatiguing protocol.